Good afternoon, everyone. Jake Perrine here from Warp Academy, and today I'm going to walk you through the 4 vintage modules of the brand new iZotope Ozone 7. Ozone has always been a fantastic piece of software, and I've been using it for years. And it's a wonderful device to put on your master chain and help contain the overall sound of your track before it comes out of your speakers. But now in Ozone 7, there are so many different components to choose from that it's wonderful as a sound design tool as well. And so through this series of 4 videos, I'm going to walk you through the 4 vintage components in a process to help restore, enhance, contain, and give new life to this looped sample that I'm using in this hip-hop tune. Let me play you a little bit of the track just so you have a sense of the context of what's going on here.
Forms appear, so what you thinking, man, is some things are just gonna happen. I remember telling this to a cutie after being up in her action. She said, people say you think you're the main attraction.
So that's kind of the overall vibe of the song, and this loop in here that I had soloed at the beginning is the piece I'd like to work on with Ozone. So I'm going to open up the Ozone interface here, and you'll see that I have added the 4 vintage modules that we'll be working with in this series. The vintage EQ, the vintage compressor, vintage tape, and vintage limiter. The focus of this first video will be the vintage EQ. Now, you're probably used to working with equalizers in a fashion not unlike this. If you use the Ableton Live equalizer, you have a line across the middle and you're adding and subtracting from various frequencies, and you pretty much have your run of the place in terms of what you can do, the shapes you can employ, the steepness of the cutoff. You know, you're pretty used to this interface, and really just the difference in sound between different EQs is something you're comparing. But we're not going to use this one. We're going to get rid of the digital EQ and focus more on the vintage EQ. And this interface is a little bit different than you might be used to. This harkens back to the days of outboard hardware EQs and mixing consoles in particular. And you have a limited range of controls for each band. And you might say, well, why would I want to hamper myself? Why not just use a digital EQ and be able to create any boosts and cuts and tonality switches that I'd like to make without any limitation? And the short answer to that is that an EQ circuit, meaning a piece of hardware that changes tone of your signal, has those certain limitations built into it just by being a piece of hardware, a circuit with electricity running through it. The tonality shifting ability of that piece is, by its nature, limited to a certain range of control. However, the trade-off there is that it has a very particular sound and a very desirable, warm, easy on the ears result that is very musical and very enjoyable and doesn't have some of the digital harshness associated with a software EQ. So this module is really trying to emulate that tonality, and I think it does a fantastic job. I've been playing with it now for some time, and I really enjoy what it's doing. So let's listen to this loop and try to bring forward some of the elements that are in it. I'm going to be focusing a lot on that low end. Sounds like it could be a conga or talking drum sort of sound in the low end there. And it's a wonderful addition to this loop, but it is a little bit out on its own, and I'm going to try and blend it into the rest of the loop a little bit. So if I wanted to boost the low end in here, you'll notice that I have this section right here that is both a low cut and a low boost. And it's a shelf, so we're talking about everything below this frequency, whatever frequency we select. So let me see if I can bring out a little bit of that low end. That's nice. If you wanted to cut it, the cut would take it down, and you'll notice that you can do both, and the combination of the two does make for some interesting possibilities. Let me just wrangle those a little bit for you. So the overlap of those two, you'll notice, does create some interesting curves in the EQ response here. I kind of liked just a little bit in the 45 range. That seemed to be a useful amount there. Next, there's definitely some air lacking in the upper range. So here's a high boost, and I'm going to use that to give it back a little bit of life. I like the 5K range there because it does kind of grab that rim shot and not make the hi-hats so harsh. You can narrow this down with the Q. I think that's nice. And we have really brought out a lot of splashiness in the high end, so you could use the high cut here to start to diminish the super high frequencies and leave some space for other things to happen in this mix. And there's a lot going on, so let's do that. Yeah, somewhere in there. So we're just rolling off the super high frequencies there. All right, I also really like that keyboard that's in this loop, and maybe we can bring that out just a little bit. It's probably in the 300 to 500 range, I'm guessing. So let's have a listen to that. We're going to try and bring that sustaining tonality that's in here and warm that up just slightly. Yeah, I think that's better. We don't want to get up into the 500, 1K range because we've got vocals going on, and later there's some horns in this song too, and we don't want to interfere with those so much. But bringing out a little bit of the warmth of this mid-low end seems to warm that keyboard up nicely. Then we have this beautiful range of frequencies to cut with. And while I like the crack of the rim shot, there's also some nasality to it that I'm going to try and tame maybe in the 1 to 2K range. Let's hear what a little bit of cut in that range does to this sample. There we go. Yeah. That softened up that rim shot a little bit. We still get the crack of it up in the high end here, but softening the nasality of it a bit will allow the vocals to really sit in the mix over top of this. And that's really what you're trying to do with a sample that's full spectrum like this. This sample can't be broken apart into its components anymore, so this is as much individual control as you're going to see. And finally, here's a high mid boost. Let's see what we get out of this. We're already giving some high boost in the 5K plus range. So actually we could, instead of using the shelf version up here, we could do that here with a bell curve instead. And that might actually prevent us from needing quite so much in the high cut. So let's try that. I'm going to experiment with both and see which one I like here better. I actually kind of think I like it better with the boost and the cut because we're getting a few other frequencies here with this wider Q. So let's go back to that. In fact, there's a rewind function here, undoes the last action, which is a wonderful Ozone feature. So I'm going to just snap back here in time. And there's even a history where you can jump back to a point in time that you like, and you can even save presets in various points in time. But I'm just going to walk backwards here, and let's see when we get back to the way that we like here. There we go. Excellent. And now let's bypass the entire device and just hear a little bit of the difference. And you can hear the smoothness of this vintage EQ. We're making very subtle changes here, but the overall cumulative effect will be significant when we're done. Great, I think you can hear the differences there. Next, we're going to get into the vintage compressor. Stay tuned.